Welcome to another chilling tale. If you're a fan of scary stories and aren't afraid to face the unknown, leave a like now, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss any of our videos. And of course, share your thoughts in the comments. It was almost 3 a.m. The silence was heavy, and I was lying in bed, trying to sleep after a long day. The house was dark, and the only sound breaking the silence was the rhythmic ticking of my clock, which had always been soothing to me. But that night, the sound seemed different. Something was wrong. That's when I heard it. A soft, childlike laugh, clearly audible, coming from the hallway. I froze. I had no children. There was no child in the house. That laugh was impossible. How could there be a child here? I stayed lying there for a moment, hoping it was some kind of illusion, maybe the sound of something outside, or even the effect of a sleepless night. But the laugh came again, louder, as if it were closer. My heart started racing. I decided to get up and investigate. The house was empty, and the hallway in front of me looked as normal as it always had. Nothing seemed out of place. I passed by my bedroom door, and as I approached the hallway mirror, I saw something that made me stop in my tracks. In the reflection of the mirror, there was a small boy. He was smiling at me. The smile wasn't innocent. It was unsettling, as if he knew something I didn't. I looked into the hallway, where the mirror reflected. There was no one there. The boy wasn't physically in the hallway, only in the mirror. I tried to convince myself that I was just seeing things. Maybe the exhaustion was playing tricks on me. But the image of the boy smiling wouldn't leave my mind. It was real. He was there, staring at me. And then what happened next was even more terrifying. When I looked back at the mirror, the boy began to move. Not physically in the hallway, but he slowly moved away from the reflection and headed toward the end of the hallway. This didn't make sense because there was no door at that corner of the hallway. There had never been a door there. I knew that. My mind was trying to process what I was seeing, but I couldn't understand it. I didn't know what to do. The boy in the mirror was heading toward the end of the hallway, where there was no exit, and I, frozen in fear, couldn't move anymore. His smile was still there, but something had changed. His reflection started to fade more and more as he moved away, until, with one last look of horror, he completely disappeared, vanishing into the empty space where nothing should have been. I ran to my bedroom, locking the door behind me, trying to process what I had just seen. I never believed in ghosts. I never believed in those stories about apparitions. But that night, everything changed. Something was in that house, something I didn't understand. And the worst part? I can no longer look at the hallway mirror. Every time I walk past it, I feel like the boy is still there, watching me back, waiting. Now, every time the clock strikes almost 3 a.m., I hear the laugh again. Comes from the end of the hallway, and I know that eventually he will return. I never thought something so bizarre could happen during a simple online game. It was an ordinary night. Some friends and I were playing a team shooter game, laughing and talking nonsense in the chat, like always. With each round, the competition got fiercer, but everything was under control, until a message appeared on my screen. It wasn't from any of my friends. It was from an unknown profile with a random name and a black and white profile picture. The message said, "Hi." I was confused. I didn't recognize the name, and for a moment, I thought it was some random player trying to provoke me. I ignored it and kept playing. But soon, another message popped up. "Are you okay?" I paused for a second, hesitating. I thought it was a friend playing a prank, but something about the way the message was written unsettled me. I didn't respond. Instead, I disabled the direct message option in the game, thinking that would fix it. Turns out it didn't. The messages kept coming, more frequently each time, each one more strange than the last. "I saw you leave your house earlier." The feeling of unease began to consume me. I'd never shared my location in the game or in real life. How did this person know that? That blue shirt you were wearing. It looked nice. My heart started racing. There was no way they could know such specific things about me. I started to feel paranoid. I looked around, but I was alone in the house with all the lights on. I tried to ignore it, thinking maybe it was a hacker or a prank, but the messages kept coming. "I'm in your house right now. Look out the window." I froze. What the hell? This couldn't be real. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm, but panic took over. I decided to look out the window. When I got close, I looked outside. Nothing. No one, no shadows. Just the empty street and the streetlights illuminating the sidewalk. Relieved, I thought it was just a joke. But when I looked at the reflection in the window, something made me stop. I saw my reflection, but there was something else. A dark figure, almost imperceptible, was right behind me. I hadn't heard any sound. There was no one behind me. My body froze in terror. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe properly. The figure in the reflection was still, but it seemed to be watching me, as if it knew exactly where I was and what I was feeling. The next message appeared on my computer screen. "You looked. Now there's no turning back." The screen flickered, and suddenly my game froze. The ambient sound disappeared. I didn't know what to do anymore. I looked at the door and the window again, but everything was too quiet. The figure in the window was still there, but when I tried to take another step to look directly behind me, it vanished. I was alone. Then, the last message appeared, cutting through the silence of my room. I was just waiting for the right moment. "Now you'll see me." Since that day, I've never played online again. I moved to another city, changed my number, and even changed my game account, but every time I walk by a window at night, the reflection seems to watch me, and I swear I hear the sound of a keyboard clicking, as if someone is always nearby. Please, if you're playing an online game, be careful with who you interact with. Some things should never be uncovered. I was in a work video conference, sitting at my desk, trying to appear as focused as possible. As everyone knows, remote work requires more attention to avoid looking disinterested. The afternoon light came through the window behind me, lighting up the room pleasantly. I was answering questions from coworkers when something in the reflection of the window caught my attention. At first, I thought it was just the reflection of the light or some illusion created by the shadows, but as the minutes passed, I began to notice that something was moving there. It looked like a shadow, but it didn't make sense. There was no light that could create such an effect. The shadow moved to the left, a little closer to the window, and I automatically spun my chair to see better. But when I looked directly, the shadow disappeared. I laughed at myself, thinking I was getting paranoid due to work stress. Still, a strange feeling lingered with me. The video conference continued, but I couldn't fully concentrate. My hands were starting to sweat, and my mind was restless. Something was wrong. The feeling of being watched grew stronger. I wasn't just seeing the reflection anymore. I was feeling it, as if someone was actually behind me. When I looked again, the shadow was back, and now it was much closer, almost at the edge of the window, as if it were approaching the door of the room. I tried to ignore it, convinced it was just the play of light and shadow. But when the meeting ended, I went to the door to see if anyone was in the hallway. Nothing. The door was locked. No sign of movement. Then, I began to walk around the room. Passing by the window, I didn't see anything unusual. But when I looked to the back of the room, near the corner, I saw something that almost made me pass out from fear. The shadow wasn't human. It was something distorted, something that shouldn't have been there. It was standing still at the back of the room, staring at me intently. There were no clear outlines, just a hazy, threatening shape. I couldn't breathe anymore. My body was paralyzed by panic. The shadow stayed there for several minutes, as if it knew I could see it and was just waiting for me, observing every move I made. I took a step back, feeling my heart race. That's when I heard a very faint sound, almost like a whisper, coming from the back of the room. But when I turned to look, there was nothing, just the shadow, motionless, staring at me. I didn't know what to do. There was no one there when I went to the door, but now that presence was everywhere. It seemed like the shadow had come out of the window and was now inside my house. Or even worse, that it had always been there. I am still looking at the back of the room, afraid that if I look again, the shadow will be even closer.